Cool. So how are you doing, Viv? First of all, you okay?
Yeah, I'm all good to be honest. I drove home last week, so I'm back in Holland now for a bit. Obviously, not been home since Christmas, so it's quite nice to just be at home again. But I mean, it's been quite boring now to be 3 months without football. So yeah, just getting used to it to be honest.
Yeah, how was that? How was the drive? That must have been an amazing drive to like, especially after being locked inside for ages.
To be fair, we drove up to Scotland like before it all started, so we kind of got stuck in Scotland. Then we were there for 10 weeks. Then we had to go back to London because obviously I'm moving house. So we have seen quite a bit, and to be honest, the drive from Scotland to England is much more beautiful than the drive from England to Holland because basically I'm stuck in a tunnel for a bit, and then you come up and you just drive 20 minutes in France, and then you're back in Belgium and Holland, and it's just flat. There's just nothing really there. So, nah, but it's fine. Like it was a good drive.
Nice. Normally we start these with the whole coronavirus chat and everything, but we can't avoid the lovely statistic that is you scored 6 goals and assisted 4 in a game as well. So I think we have to start there. There's no other place for us to start. How the hell does it feel when you do something like that on the pitch?
Well, to be honest, I obviously got taken off, I think after like 63 or 68 minutes because we had a game again in midweek. So like I was just getting a rest. And like just coming off at that moment, like you don't really know what to feel or what to say. Like, you know how you've got sometimes that trainings match that anything and everything you touch just goes in.
Yeah.
That's exactly how that game felt. Like obviously we had played Bristol before, the week before, and I think we won 5-0.
Mm.
And we just went in a game and we were like, okay, we're going to have to score as many as possible. Like, we just need to do a job here. But then, I mean, 10-0 after 60 minutes, like, no one had actually thought that we were capable of doing that. So, yeah, I mean, looking back on it, obviously, as you say, like, every single interview I've got starts with that game. So, yeah, it's just obviously like, it was a massive game for us. And
With that stat, is the only goal that you weren't involved in is because you weren't on the pitch.
Nah, true. You know what? Like at halftime, Emma Mitchell, she said like, okay, it's gonna be 11-1. We're gonna just like mess it up once in the bag and like I'm gonna score one goal. And we were all just laughing because we were like, you're on the bench. Like, how are you gonna score one goal? And then obviously like she came on the last 15 minutes and she done exactly what she said at halftime. So she was like, it was 10-1 at that moment, and then she scored at 11-1, and we were just like, honestly, we were laughing so much on the bench. We were just like, nah, surely not. Like, you've just said you're gonna do this and you actually done it. So it's quite funny.
I love that even after 6, you were still annoyed that you came off and you still wanted to stay on and keep playing.
I mean, it's always like that, I think, like, especially as like, yeah, obviously like I am a number 9, so you just want I just want to play. And obviously like I think at that moment like it was the right thing to come off because I didn't feel that fit before the game. But yeah,
It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
like that, you don't want to get taken off.
What, you get a hat trick, a ball for a hat trick. Did you take 2 home that night?
I never got a ball home yet. I'm not sure
What?
what's happening
No
with that.
way.
I think I just like didn't start like once I came to England they offered me the ball and I was like, what do I need to do with the ball? Like, I've made quite a couple of hat tricks already in my career, but I never got a ball. Then I think like after the first one I was like, nah, I'm not gonna take the ball home. What do I need to do with all those balls at home? So right now I don't really have any of the balls. I've got like the Euro final ball. I didn't score a hat trick that game, but I did get the ball. So, but
So
that's the only ball I got.
you've got no mementos from that game at all. Just
Nah, I got like the wee like Barclays trophy player of the match award. So I just brought that home because my mum likes those things.
That's what we'll go on to a bit later, but that's what I love about your character. You're sort of like, a lot of people would get sort of quite sentimental or like cherish those memories. You're just sort of like, nah, done it, next.
Yeah, I think like I don't know, like obviously, especially when you're in season, you just always prepare for the next game. And like I'm not really that type of person, as you say, to just like stay in that game to watch like the highlights back every single day. Like I'm just not like that. Obviously it's nice, like, and it's cool what we've done that game, but yeah, I was just moving on to the next game really, and that's still how I feel now. Like obviously when I speak about it a lot, like it comes back, but otherwise, like yeah, it's just something that happened and that's it.
After you've scored 6, right? Say when you score 6 in a game and you go home and you're prepping for the next game. In your mind, is it I want to go and score 7 next, or is it where's your mind after that? Like, how do you prep?
To be honest, like I had 2 friends over that game, and I never really get like a Nando's after the game, but I thought, oh, I actually deserve a Nando's here after the game. So like directly after the game, we went to the Nando's, picked like something up, because I mean, obviously chicken is quite good for you. Like chicken and rice is quite good for you after the game. But I was like, okay, I've just scored 6 goals. I'm allowed to have like chicken and chips. So I had chicken and chips. And then obviously like from there on, like we've got like recovery boots at home and that. So like we just went home, and there was one of the other games was on after, like I think we watched like Liverpool Man City or something after, like one of the men's game, and we just came home, watched the footy, and then from there on, like I just got in the recovery boots and that was it. And then the next day, obviously when I walked into the club on Monday, I mean, I don't think the men's players have ever been staring at like us as women that much. Like obviously like they were like, oh, it's like quite special what you have done like yesterday that way. So yeah, and then that Monday was recovery, and then you need to go again on Wednesday.
It's amazing. With those moments in mind, and you think back and talking through sort of like quite recent football memories, how much have you missed it over the last few months?
Yeah, obviously, like I think in the beginning, a lot of the girls didn't have a break for like 4 or 5 years, which like then finally getting a break is quite nice. But now to not have played since like early March is actually like crazy. Like I've never had this long off. Like it's almost like you've been injured and you've not been able to actually go outside. Like I think especially the last couple of weeks, like you really miss standing up for like, oh, I'm going to training, or like Sunday morning, like, oh, it's meant to be match day, but there's no game on. Like you really miss it now. So like, obviously now we got a date to come back to Arsenal the 13th of July. And I think everyone is just looking forward to it so much. Like it's time to go back, if that makes sense.
How did it feel when you got told that the season was going to end early?
I think from the moment we actually started the lockdown, obviously like I've seen what Holland has done. I've seen what like France had done at that moment. I was like, well, I'm not really hopeful for us to actually like continue the league. So like you kind of prepare for that. Like you kind of like, okay, like the chance that we actually go again might be very small. So the moment they tell you like, oh, the league is gonna get like cancelled or whatever, you're like, oh, like I wish we could just finish it off. And especially as well because I think the men's league obviously are finishing it off. So like yeah, you still have hope that somehow they find a way for us to like finish it too, but that's just how it is. Like I think in this situation that you can only be, there's obviously winners and losers, and I think for us like at Arsenal, like it's really tough for us to be third now without actually having the chance to just like catch the other 2 up. So I think that's quite a shame, but that's just how it is right now in this situation.
Yeah, well, you mentioned about going up to Scotland for the lockdown. How was that? And spending 10 weeks there? I mean, different surroundings. How was the whole experience up there?
I loved it. So I might have to sign for Celtic next year, but nah, it was amazing. Like I think we just had a bit more freedom there. Like obviously like we were in a wee town like north from Perth, so there was no one really there, so we could literally go on like hikes and walks for like 3 or 4 hours and we couldn't see anyone. So like we were really safe, and I mean we were really lucky with the weather as well. Scotland obviously always rains, but it wasn't that bad to be honest this time. And like right behind our house you had a football pitch and a tennis court, so we've just been playing tennis, we've been playing football, like we've just done so much, and it gave us so much more freedom as we would have had like in London. So we were really lucky to actually be there at that moment.
It's nice. Did you say wee town? You picked up local lingo?
Yep. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I hang out with the Scots like a lot at the clubs. Like I hang out with Emma Mitchell, with Kim Little, and then obviously like being around Lisa the whole time, like just makes you pick up their words instead of like the London slang, I think.
Other than picking up a Scottish accent, what other positives have come out of the situation for you?
I think you just realize a bit more like how lucky you normally are. Like I think I never really, as you say, like I never really look back on what I achieve in a season. Like obviously sometimes after the season you think back like, oh, we've done this year. Like it's quite a special year. But I think now, like for the first time having so long off, like you actually look back at the last 3 or 4 years in your career. Like I mean, we've done unbelievable things. Like I've won a Euros. Like we got to a World Cup final. Like that's all the things that, especially now, like you appreciate so much more. And I think like going back to football now, like I'll be able to probably enjoy football more than I was before. Like I'll just be very exciting, like a 5-year-old girl again to like just get back out on the pitch. Like I can't wait right now.
Yeah, is that your kind of mindset changed a little bit with that in mind, in terms of taking every moment, making the most of every game and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I think, as I say, like I was always like that person that would just focus on the next game and just make sure that the rest was focused as well. But yeah, definitely. I think I'll be able to just like enjoy a bit more and just enjoy the moment, if that makes sense, and just like focus on the game that's right there and not just focus on like everything that's coming after. Like I think obviously like I am still young, but I am more mature and like I am probably more experienced than a lot of other girls at my age. So like you do kind of have that role in a team that you sometimes need to be the one that's ready for it and need to be the one that's looking forward. But I'll definitely be less like that.
Just going back a little bit to your childhood. First of all, what the hell is it like to grow up on a farm?
To be honest, like my mom and dad used to have a restaurant, and behind the restaurant was like the farm bit. So like we had chickens and like we had a horse and all that, and like I had so much freedom. Like I was playing in the garden all day long. Like as well, like on one point, obviously, like because my mom and dad had like a restaurant, like there was a big terrace like outside of it, and like some days I would just kick the ball like by accident on the terrace just so I could see all the people and they could all see me. And then I was just trying to find someone there that wanted to play with me. So like I think in that way, like it really helped me because like I've had so many like friends and people to actually go and play football with at that moment. So like, yeah, I mean, that probably kind of based me as a player now. Like I play football every single day there. So like I just really enjoy that.
It is amazing how much football can be sort of like the gateway to like making friends or just, you know, getting to know people. Like everyone's got it in common, haven't they?
Nah, definitely. And I think as well, like, especially now, like obviously when I was younger, there weren't really that many girls in school that actually used to play football. But like 2 days ago, I went outside to play a bit of football with my brother and like Lisa, and then literally within 5 minutes, the whole town kind of knew that like I was outside playing football. So instead of only playing 4v4 at that moment, there were probably like 100 kids that all wanted to play with us, and I was like, oh my god, like here we go. But it's like funny to see that it was like as many girls as boys, and like they all just played together and that, and they're like, oh yeah, we're here every single night, like we love playing with each other. Like it's obviously just a way to like become friends with someone and just to like cruise through school and just to have your mate, if that makes sense.
Did you have a girls team in your local area, or was it a mixed team with with the boys as well?
Well, we definitely did have a girls team. I just never played with them. Like I always played with the boys. Like till I was I think 14, I played with the boys, and from that age on, I directly went to the first league in Holland, like to Heerenveen, to the women's team. So I was 14 when I signed my first contract. I wasn't even allowed to sign it, to be honest. Like my dad signed it for me. So, I mean, that says enough. But yeah, like I think Holland is really good in that way. Like they've got a lot of girls teams, they've got a lot of women's teams, and it's still growing as well now. It's like becoming bigger and bigger.
Do you think they're doing something right over there that the rest of the world isn't doing? Is there like lessons that we can take from what's going on in Holland to sort of like push the game forward in other countries?
I mean, I think like the youth setup in Holland is really good. Like even if I compare it to like what I know now in England, like I think just like the roots are a lot better coming into like the professional football. So I think that definitely helps us. And I think if you just take it back on women's football, like for us winning the Euros in 2017 in Holland just boosted it up so much. Like it's two different worlds. Like if you compare us before and after, before we could get 3,000 people in the stadium, and now after our stadium from 30,000 are sold out within 24 hours. Like it's crazy. So sometimes you obviously need success to actually go through that change. But I definitely think, like, especially with England, the Euros are going to come up and they are going to obviously host them. So I definitely think that is the time for them to make the next step.
Just talking about the international team, already you're the highest Dutch goal scorer of all time, which is mental at your age. How proud of you are you of those accolades?
I mean, I think it's kind of the same as like with the Bristol game. Like I think I was always just worried about next game, and then obviously like at the World Cup before the Cameroon game, like all the girls were like, okay, you only need like one more to like equal it, and you only need two more to actually like become all-time top goal scorer. And I think that was probably the first time, because other girls in the team said it to me before the game, that I was like, oh yeah, like I'm actually so close. And then obviously like I made a deal with my brother, like if I do score twice, I'm gonna do that stupid like that head roll, whatever you call it. But so I think at that moment, like after the game, that was probably the first time that I actually realized what I'd done. And like obviously because it was such a massive thing, like it was everywhere. And I think if you look back at it now, like I've always said, like, oh, once I'm top goal scorer, I'm ready to retire. But I mean, I'm 23, so I can't really see that anymore. And then I said, like, oh, if I hit 100, I'll retire. But I probably have to change that again as well. So just slowly building up to the 100, and we'll see how we go from there.
Yeah, I mean, if you probably calculated how many you've scored now till when you actually retire, the number would be insane.
I mean, obviously, like it's quite a shame because you miss out on like 5 or 6 games right now with the Corona situation. But now, like definitely, I think I've got 85 caps or so. So I mean, I can definitely still double that. So let's go for the 150 goals.
That's amazing. When you look at sort of the journey and the countries that you've played at, and the experiences you've had, what is it like from a cultural perspective to switch from Holland to Germany and then to England? How do you adjust, and how do you find that?
Oh, it's massive, to be honest. I think obviously playing in Holland first, like Holland is quite relaxed. At that moment, the league wasn't full pro either. So like I still went to school from like 9 till 4 every day. Then I got picked up, went to training 4 times a week. And then we played a game on Friday night, had the weekend off. So like, although it was on like the highest level, like it didn't really feel like I was a full pro at that moment. Then I went to Germany, and that's just completely different. Like it's all just like drilled in. Like you need to, like, obviously like the coach is the leader. Like as a player, you're not really allowed to have any own opinions or anything. Like, and I was 17, so I was quite stubborn. So sometimes that didn't work out. But after getting used to Germany, like the first year, I struggled with injuries because I went from training 4 times a week to training 7 times a week. And I mean, knowing Germany is a lot of running. Like it's all based on like, okay, you need to be fit. So like after the first year, I was like, nah, I'm done here. I want to go home so bad. But then obviously I still had a contract, so I tried it again the second year, and that's kind of like how I started to find my way of like dealing with it all. So then going from Germany to England was almost like going back home, like just a lot like more relaxed, and like everything was ball based, and just like off the pitch you were actually allowed to be yourself again. Like you didn't have to fit that like German idea of like being the professional footballer. Like you just have 2 lives now. Like obviously like you're just fifth, but you're also like Miedema, the footballer, if that makes sense. So I definitely feel more relaxed in England than I done in Munich.
Did having those different experiences in the different countries make you mature as a person quite quickly?
No, definitely. Like, I wouldn't change a thing. Like, as I said, like, I hated Munich sometimes, but if I look back at the time, like, I absolutely loved it as well. Like, it's made me as a player, it's made me as a person. I think going away from home when you're 17, not speaking any English, not speaking any German, it's quite a big, like, step to actually go then. But you had to grow up so quick. Like, I had one of my roommates, she was a lot older than me. She was 29 at that moment. And, like, I could just kind of pull myself up on her. So, like, she had experiences, like, from playing all over the world, and like I could just kind of see like how she'd done things, and like it would just really help me finding a way on how I could do things. And then obviously, as you say, like I play in England now, and I mean I'm totally like happy at Arsenal, and I'll definitely stay for a couple more years, but I do probably have to wish to like play in maybe 1 or 2 more leagues as well, like later in my career.
How much did you say about having the Viv side and then the other side of sort of like on and off pitch perceptions? How much do you enjoy kind of like building your profile and doing things like that, and I guess showcasing who you are? Is that a new opportunity that you've had in England?
Yeah, I definitely think so, especially like in Holland and England. I think it's less just about the player. I think it's just more about like who you are. And obviously, like I always say, like the role I've got in women's football, in football, like it's not just that I need to score goals. Like it's also obviously like lifting women's football to a higher standard. And I think us girls that are playing right now, like we need to recognize that, and we need to do the right things for that, because obviously like it would be amazing if like girls that start playing football right now have got a full-time living contract by the time they grow up, and like that there's no worry about money anymore, about paying rent every single month. Like obviously I'm in a really lucky position, like I don't struggle like paying my rent each month, but I still got girls at national team that literally rely on the money coming in from the association, because otherwise they can't pay their rent. So like that's obviously like very difficult for the girls. So like I believe that our generation is really important for like standing up in that way. And obviously like I've got my opinions about a lot of things, and yeah, sometimes they're probably not as popular for some people, but I think it's the right thing to do.
Past few years for women's football has definitely been ones for the history books, though, right? Does it make you proud that you're part of this game where it's changing so much for the better?
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like obviously the Euros and the World Cup, they've always been big in women's football. Like, yeah, you can just see that they're probably farther ahead as league football. But playing in the new Spurs Stadium for like in front of like 38,000 people with Arsenal was absolutely amazing. Like just those kind of things. Like at that moment, like you don't realize it, because you're like, oh, it's in another game. Like I just need to get myself ready. We need to win this game, and that's it. But looking back at that, like it's obviously amazing to be in that record crowd again, to like be part of that again. So yeah, obviously I hope next year, I mean it's going to be hard getting people in, but it's obviously good for us to like keep changing the women's game, and instead of just like playing once a year in the stadium from like 40,000 people, like hopefully we can make that more regular.
There's obviously so much progressive and positive things happening right now, whether that's what Marcus Rashford did recently or the Black Lives Matter initiative. Are you similarly proud to kind of have a platform that you can use to change the game, as you said?
Yeah, I think so. Like I think especially like the way I work, like I just want people to be treated in the right way. And obviously, as you say, like with Rashford, like doing the meal deal with like the government, I think is absolutely amazing. Like it's something that he's been going through when he was younger, so he's got that feeling like I need to stand up for it. And obviously what he's achieved with it is absolutely unreal. Like you can only have respect for that in that way. Like and then obviously like even like with the Black Lives Matter thing, like it's just there's so many issues I think in the world right now, and obviously like what we're doing as women's footballers is like standing up for like equality, like standing up for like what we think we deserve. And like as I said before, like I don't expect to get the same wage as the men's, because first of all I think the men's wage is probably out of proportion high, but I also think like we're not there yet. I just think like we need to make steps to become better, and I'm not saying that in the future we need to get equal pay or whatever, but we just need to create a platform for girls to be able to live their footballing life and to be full-time pro, instead of just having to work from 9 till 3, then go to training from 4 till 6, and then having to study after. Like that's obviously not like a full-time life. So I think that's what we're basically like fighting for right now.
In your mind, what are the sort of the short-term goals or the short-term steps for everyone to help it grow?
I mean, obviously I think if you asked me that 3 months ago, it was quite easy to answer that question, because as I said, like our most important thing is getting more people into the stadium. Like that's always been one of the issues, and I think at Arsenal this season, obviously because we played like some good football, like we've always had decent crowds in the stadium. But I think right now with not having people at football games, it will have to change a bit. Like I think you need to look for ways that it becomes really big on TV, that it's easy for people to see on TV, and obviously like some big companies will have to stand behind that. And I think even the Bundesliga, like the women's Bundesliga, they've been streamed in like 37 countries or something. They've had more views than they've ever had before. So like you can, although people are not allowed to come to the stadium, there's still ways to actually interact with people, and I think that should be one of the main focuses that the FA is like focusing on for next season.
Amazing. Going back to those goal records and sort of how ruthless you are on the pitch, where did that come from, and were there sort of like lessons that the clubs that you've been at that kind of made your mindset change, so it's just like, I'm going to go for this, I'm going to be completely ruthless in front of goal?
I don't know, like I used to play as a 10 a lot, so like even when I was in Holland, like at Heerenveen, I basically, my whole 3 seasons, I basically only played as a 10. I still scored a lot of goals, and I was like basically almost like a second number 9 in most games. But then going to Munich, we played like a 5-4-1, so like really defensive. So there wasn't really any space for a 10, and then it was just like, okay, Viv, you go on top, and you just need to score those goals. So like then it was a lot of long balls, and like it was me against 4 defenders, and like I think that's where I started realizing more that, oh, like this is me as a 9. And then I think at that moment, like because I only had 1 chance a game, I had to be ruthless, because if I didn't score that 1 chance a game, we wouldn't win the game. Like we would never concede with Bayern. I think we only conceded 7 times the whole season, which is obviously nothing. But then for me to only have that 1 chance I'm missing, all the girls would look at me and be like, why did you not score that ball? So like in that season, I think I started realizing that any chance I had to be ruthless with. So that's probably like the season that shaped me most, like that second year in Bayern. Because I obviously played as a 9 already for national team, but we play against Greece and Portugal, and I had like 10 chances and I could score 3 and I would still be fine, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's where the real number 9 came in, I think, in Bayern that year.
Given how many you score, how does it feel when you don't get one?
Fine, actually. I think in that way, I'm still number 10. Like I think sometimes if I play an amazing game, but I assist a couple goals and I actually don't score myself, like I can be as happy as when I score a hat-trick and actually don't really do any good in the game, if that makes sense. So I think in that way, sometimes I'm still telling myself I'm a 10, although I know that I'm obviously more a 9. I still get the freedom, like sometimes to play as a 10 for Arsenal, and even at national team I've got a bit more freedom now as well. So like I can just become that like false number 9 with like or wingers going in, or like DVD as a 10 to jump over. But I mean, football's like what I said, like I just need to enjoy football. You shouldn't pressure yourself of like scoring a goal every game, because that's not me, and I don't think I'd enjoy it then.
I really love the sort of like feeling that you give off when you do interviews, whether it's like post-match interviews or media. You talk well, and sometimes it can be quite sort of blunt in a good way. How would you sort of describe your sense of humour?
I'm quite sarcastic, I'd say. Which people will think, oh, if you just met me and like you've got a bad day from me, then I'm just like very, very short and like I just like taking the mick out myself, to be honest. Like I'm just like that type of person. Like I don't really want to take myself too serious, because I always think that everyone around me already does that. Like obviously like with media and being at Arsenal, like you always need to be that like serious person. So I just always try to just like joke through an interview, or just like be honest. Like I don't really like the programmed like interviews. Like obviously you hear a lot in football, like that's just not me. And if we play a bad game, then why should I be like, oh yeah, we tried, blah blah blah. Like we just weren't good enough today. That's how easy it is. Like I think remembering, we obviously like Chelsea had an amazing game against us. They beat us 4-1. And I think after the game, like I heard some of the girls like from our team saying like, oh yeah, we were just unlucky today. And then I had an interview and I was just like, nah, we just weren't good enough today. It wasn't because we were unlucky. Like we just didn't deserve it today. Like we didn't create anything and we conceded way too easy. So I just like to just be honest and just go that way. And yeah, that's it.
Those personalities are really, it's one thing we talk about constantly, is they're really disappearing from football, right? It's a shame that you don't get those honest, brutal answers. And I don't know, for me, it makes it more interesting. It makes the game more interesting if you get those characters.
Yeah, but that's the thing, as I say, like I think especially like going through like the youth football now, like obviously you can compare it to how it was 10 years ago. Like the boys are just there and like everyone looks at them, everyone expects a lot from them, but they go through that like social media like system that they kind of know, like they get told what to say, which then you kind of lose your own personality. And I think we obviously got those classes as well, but I was 17, 18, and at that moment, what I said I was super stubborn. So I was literally just sitting in the class. I was just like that, and I was like, nah, like I'm just gonna do my own thing anyway. So I think you just need to find the right way in it. Like obviously, like what I said, like sometimes I've got that that function that I need to behave myself and need to say the right thing. Which other times you can obviously be yourself a bit more and say what you think and say what you believe in.
There's kind of like a message in there though, isn't there? Is it something that you'd kind of actively say to like young players coming through, is like you've got to be yourself, you've got to express yourself, and you've got to show personality?
Yeah, definitely. I think it can only help you. Like obviously, like once you know how you are or who you are, it will just help you. It will help you off the pitch, but also will help you on the pitch. And I think sometimes you see that players lose that freedom in the youth academy. Like even if my brother obviously like went through the whole youth academy in Holland, and like just what he's telling me, like he sometimes probably has lost his own way. Like he just got told like, oh, you need to do that, you need to do this, and like he would actually do it because the boys knew that they had to do it, otherwise they wouldn't make a chance. But that does make them into, I think, lesser like people and footballers at that moment. Like I think you just need to find the right way in letting players loose and letting them be themselves, and then also obviously like letting them do what you expect them to do. But I think that's definitely something like that needs to loosen up again, and that clubs need to work on.
Being able to express yourself off the pitch, have fun, and whether it's being sarcastic with the media or whatever it is, it definitely. Do you think it helps you express yourself on the pitch as well? And be yourself?
Yeah, I think so. But I think the moment I walk on the pitch, like I just forget about anything and anyone. Like I'm just focused on the game, or like I'm that type of player as well. Like I can be switched off for like 60 minutes, and I'm really busy with seeing everything in the stadium. Like ask me after the game and I know anything and everything that happened in the stadium. So like if someone falls off the chair, like the stairs, I've probably seen it, like in that way. So like I can be really focused on everything around me, not so much on the game. But then that one moment that I kind of need to be there, I'm fully focused, and like I just do what I need to do, if that makes sense.
I love the idea of you sort of like daydreaming during a game, and then just sort of like the ball just drops you and it's like, oh yeah, another goal.
Yeah, but that's it. Like I am a big daydreamer, like especially also like during the day. Like the girls are always laughing because like we're sitting in a gym, and like I mean it's not my favorite place to be. So I'm just sitting on the bench. Like obviously I need to do my exercise, but I'm literally just sitting with the weights in my hands and I'm just staring in front of me, and then I just see everyone coming and like what's going on, and then they're obviously laughing because I'm just daydreaming again. But it's just like, I just become a different person on the pitch as well. I'm off the pitch, and I think I like that about like playing football, because I just feel like I've got two personalities. Like I can be that, like, I mean, I'm not always smiling on the pitch. I can be that grumpy player on the pitch, but then off the pitch I can still be happy and smiling, if that makes sense. But it's just obviously like me being focused on what I need to be focused on in that moment.
Definitely. I mean, one thing that we were talking about is the number of books that have got your name attached to them. It's just one more accomplishment that you've managed to do. Where did that start? And can you tell us a bit about
that? Yeah. Well, before the Euros, like obviously at that moment, I was probably the most well-known player from obviously like our national team, and I've always said like I obviously haven't like finished off my study yet, but I've always said like I want to do something like for kids, or I want to like make kids know a bit more about the game, like, oh, what do you need to do, or how can you train, and like in that way. And I think at that moment, like one of the book publishers like came to me and they were like, we would really like to bring out a book. And I was like, well, what kind? Like, what are you thinking of? And then obviously we started talking and like we found a way to like put their idea into what I want to like show kids, if that makes sense. So obviously like then right before the Euros, like my first book came out, which was basically just like tips, like, oh, what can you do like to become a better player, but also my experiences. So like they could, like I would tell like little stories about what I done when I was younger. And it actually was like a big success. So like obviously then the second book came out directly after the Euros, and I think I actually lost count. I think I've got 6 or 7 books out right now. So yeah, it's just amazing. Like right now it's also stories that it's kids books, so like they're obviously like written for like 10 years old, but it's my experiences. So like it's, for example, one of the book is like that I was playing football in between sheep, because that's what I done like when I was younger on the farm. Like I would go into the pits next to me, but there were like sheep and everything. So like it's just like my own experiences put in a kid's book, and it's just, I mean, they're very popular, so we must be doing something right.
Whether it's for your books or whether it's for your own individual character on or off the page, where does your main inspiration come from? Who are your like heroes or role models in life?
I'd say obviously like in football, as everyone knows, like I was a Feyenoord fan, so like Robert van Persie was like my big hero on the pitch. Like I think watching so many clips from him when I was younger like kind of made me that false number 9 that he'd like to be as well. So like on the pitch, definitely like him. I think off the pitch, like I didn't really have one particular like hero, if that makes sense. Like I used to watch a lot of tennis. I used to watch so much football. So like I think from all different cultures, you pick something up, and yeah, that is just probably like shaped me in the way that I am right now. And I think as well, like obviously where I am from in Holland, like if you think you're the big star, then like the town won't accept you in anymore, if that makes sense. So like even from a young age, like I would just always just like be myself and not do anything like weird or stupid. So obviously like, yeah, that has just basically like shaped me in the person I am. Just like, yeah, watching different sports, not just footballers, because I think especially like in football, because there's so much like money and that pressure on it, I think that's how you become that like typical boy that you need to be to actually be a footballer. Which I think like in tennis, like especially like Federer was like my big example when I was younger. Like it's just a different sport, and like they're different types of persons. So like that was for me really interesting to see, I think.
Yeah, you can get a lot if you sort of take influence from outside of football and bring that mentality into football. I suppose looking forward, those kind of people, you know, they've taken on the world and been so successful in it. Similarly with you've got like you're at that level where you can literally just take on the world. So how do you set your targets, and what do you sort of look to achieve over the next sort of year to a few years?
To be honest, I'm quite bad at setting targets. I think I just like what I've been doing the last 2 years. Like I've not had any big injuries. I'm knocking that off right now. But I have had like a lot of like small ones like the last couple of years, or like I've probably been playing too much the year before. Then after the summer break, I came back in and I wasn't fit enough, if that makes sense. So I think what I'm really focusing on is like just staying fit and actually being able to just have fun and play football. And from there on, I always like to think that if I'm fit, I can just do whatever I want on the pitch. So yeah, that's my main focus. And obviously, like as you say, like with what is coming, like the next 3 years are going to be incredibly busy. Like we're obviously going to play the Olympics, we're going to play the Euros, and obviously, hopefully, we're going to qualify for the World Cup as well. So that's just massive, massive summers coming up again. And I hope that we can keep growing with the national team and keep doing what we've been doing the last 2 or 3 years.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. I think that's an incredible sort of insight into your mind, and appreciate the time massively.
It's not much going on in that mind right now, but just a simple person that wants to do the right thing.
It's amazing. No, thank you so much for your time, and
No problem.
all the best for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care and smash it.
Yeah, I mean, very excited to go back soon, so we'll see.